Welcome to the Scoop World Order. A new craziness is going on in Michigan, and we're going to break all of that down. It seems like every week there is something crazy going on, and we are on it. So we're going to get into that. We're also going to get into the fact that Ohio State has formed a new athletic council. What does that mean going forward for the athletic program, specifically for football? And we got a really nice practice report. Scoop had eyes after Woody Hayes, so we're going to talk about what went on today at practice on Monday for the Buckeyes. Again, they have a few days left of camp, and then it is broken, and it is time to get ready to face the Akron Zips in like 12 days. This is it's flying by. So one more Saturday, folks, and then it'll be football season for Ohio State. To me, it doesn't really kick off. I know we've got week 0 coming up, but doesn't matter until the Bucks, till the foot hits the ball for the Buckeyes. So we're going to get at all that. We'll take your questions as always. We appreciate you guys. Thank you as always for contributing to Pay It Forward. We had bunch of new members today sign up. It is football season. People are taking advantage of everything that we provide here at BuckeyeScoop.com for our veterans, for our paramedics, for our armed force members. We appreciate you guys, police officers. Thank you guys for supporting the program. Again, it is a fantastic program. We ask for a military ID, a police ID, something that can identify that you are serving in the capacity that we would like to extend the offer to on BuckeyeScoop.com, and we just appreciate you guys. So our super chats are going into that. It's been absolutely incredible. So thank you guys so much for taking care of the people, to take care of this community, to take care of this country. Again, stand up for your country. This is a great country. The United States is, despite what some people like to tell you, this is the place to be, best country on earth. And thank you guys for taking care of the people. They keep us safe each and every day. If you guys enjoy this content, please leave us a like, click subscribe, also click that little alert bell. If you guys want to do something huge for us, follow us on Apple Podcasts and Spotify. Again, those are platforms that we've had explosive growth on over the last couple of months, and we really appreciate you guys that are signing up for that. Even if you're just a YouTube fan, just clicking on that, subscribing, it means a lot to us. It really helps us out. So thank you guys for doing that. Again, it is takes about maybe 25 seconds to do. And it really helps our channel out, and it's absolutely free. So again, it's win-win-win all the way around. So thank you for doing that. If you guys want to really amplify your Ohio State fandom and have the ultimate experience, join BuckeyeScoop.com. Our message board has been absolutely on fire. Only site to give a practice report out today. We had a lot of really juicy tidbits on there about who made some big plays today, how Will Howard looked, what some of the new stuff they're doing on offense. It's really, really exquisite stuff. And again, our community is second to none. A lot of you guys enjoy the chat on here. It's basically like the chat 24 hours a day. So it is a fantastic, fantastic thing to really round out your fandom as an Ohio State fan. Consider it like it's like putting a supercharger on your favorite car. It just gets everything so much better, so much faster. And it's something that I think that a lot of you guys would really, really enjoy, especially if you haven't been on a message board before. Ours is very clean, very well moderated, very, very family friendly. So we'd love to have you guys on there. So that being said, I'm going to bring in the man, the myth, the Michigan hockey scandal is bubbling up, and it is pretty wild. Some of the stuff that we've learned about. Nevada, what's some of the latest, and how bad is it at Michigan right now when they've got football, basketball, and hockey, the 3 major male sports, all under some sort of conditions and all under some sort of turmoil within the athletic department?
Well, I mean, if you've been following us, we'd been talking about a big expose article that was coming out in the Athletic, and the first part of that came out. It was on the basketball program, kind of outlining some of the parade of horribles that was going on there with Juwan Howard, and we'd all kind of watched the Juwan Howard train wreck kind of unfold right in front of us. Assaulting coaches on the other thing, assaulting staff members, assaulting his own staff member. I mean, and they still wouldn't fire him. They still rolled with him. They still did it. And it kind of made you scratch your head and you're like, wow, what is going on at Michigan? And we had, gotten wind of other stuff that had been going on. Obviously the football program, we've talked about ad nauseum, and we'll talk more about the football program again today. Because I've got another little tidbit on the football program that's very interesting. But I want to give a shout out to Justin Spiro, who's doing some great work at Darko State News. One of the true only investigative journalists in the sports world is out there actually digging and doing stuff. So I want to shout him out and give him some credit. because he was able to unearth some stuff on the hockey program. Which, when you ask yourself, well, what does hockey have to do with any of this stuff? Well, it all ties into an athletic program that is completely and totally out of control. And so here's the story. The basic story is, the Michigan hockey program obviously has been, very successful, and their coach Mel Pearson, former coach at Michigan, very successful guy, brought him to several Frozen Fours. So Mel Pearson has players. This is during the COVID, whatever you want to call it, the COVID times that we have. His players lie to the medical staff about their condition, and he falsifies the medical reports showing them so that the players could remain eligible and play. So he basically pulled an anti-Jim Harbaugh, where Jim Harbaugh basically lied about players having COVID so they could tap out of the game. Pearson goes and hides the results and then falsifies the medical reports. And this all comes out as the subject of internal investigation that Michigan hired a third party investigator to investigate this. This all comes out that he did this, and they still don't fire him. They don't fire him until it comes out publicly, months and months and months later. Then they still don't fire him. They just let his contract expire and let it go out. So there were allegations in there about sexual mistreatment of women, allegations from a former Michigan goalie about that, and so you've got literally the coach falsifying medical reports, and Ward Manuel still does not fire the guy. So how does this fit into this pattern of behavior of, you've got to win at all costs with Juwan Howard, you've got to win at all costs with Jim Harbaugh, and letting the program completely run amok, whether it be recruiting violations, advanced scouting, do anything to win. And you've got the hockey program where you've literally have the coach falsifying medical reports to keep the players eligible. And these are not facts in dispute. This is not, Nevadabuck and Burke Blather. This is all documented in this internal report. And I just couldn't believe when I read. I literally could not believe this. How bad it is up at Michigan right now. How completely out of control the program is. And I'll give you this little tidbit here on the Michigan. We've talked so much about the Michigan stuff. We talked about thing, and I've talked about we've talked about Connor Stallions in particular, about, was the Central Michigan thing his first caper? Remember, we've talked about that. Was that the first? And I've said there's no way it was his first caper. Well, there's information coming out that at the West, as I said, the Western Michigan game in 2022, which was Friday, September 2nd, Michigan played at home. The next day, I believe they played against Colorado State, or yeah, I think it was Saturday the 3rd against Colorado State. Who was on the sideline there at the Western Michigan game, not the Central Michigan game? None other than Connor Stallions. So that's going to be the next big thing that's going to break out there, is that Connor and his little band of thieves was not just at the Central Michigan game. He was at the Western Michigan game. And it follows, again, Western Michigan, little Geppettos. He's the King Geppetto. Hey, give me a pass. I'll come and do this. And yes, Mr. Stallions, whatever you need, we'll do it for you. They did it. And then he just took it up a notch with the spy sunglasses next year. But yeah, Connor Stallions on the sideline, Western Michigan, September 2nd, Friday, 2022. Wasn't his first time when he did it Central Michigan a year later. The Michigan scandal just keeps getting better and better and deeper with more. Every time we dig into it, it just uncovers more and more stuff.
Yeah, it is pretty fascinating. And the thing that I wonder is, when you look at, 23, so, last year when Connor did his little caper on the Central Michigan thing on a Friday, drives up to East Lansing, gets on the sideline. Michigan was playing East Carolina the next day. I believe Jim Harbaugh was suspended for that game, correct?
He was suspended for so many games last year. I can't keep track, but I believe he was suspended.
I think he was
for that
suspended
game.
for the first 3 or 4, but so it, to slip out when there's some, I guess, flux among the coaching staff, and they had Mike Hart be a coach for half of a game, and they had Because like by that definition, Mike Hart's the first black coach in Michigan history, even though he's out of coaching now, which is weird. Now Sharon Moore's a coach. Not that that matters, but that was like some stat that I saw today when I was doing some research for the show. But literally that day before, they play East Carolina. I'm 99% sure that was a noon game. The next day, it's just amazing how he planned this out. And again, like when you're a guy like Connor, like I said, I've been in his shoes before. Like you have to tell somebody that you're going to leave. They had a noon game at Michigan. It was a night game at East Lansing. It's a very short drive. I'm sure that he had to get over there. I would imagine he was probably at East Lansing a couple hours before kickoff, just because if he's going to get into Spartan Stadium and meet whatever genius is going to hand him a sideline pass and get him the polo and not have the matching shoes and whatever, like you'd have to do that during pregame, or you'd have to do that like when, honestly, like the easiest way to do it is be there 2 hours before kickoff when the buses pull up, because when the buses pull up, there's hundreds of there's 100 people walking in from usually 3 different buses. They all kind of walk in a big clump. I'm sure that there's a way that you could have one of the guys say, hey, he's with us, and he jumps in the big clump of people going into the stadium. Because like when you're going into the stadium, like when we go into like an away stadium, and we're busing, and I've been to Michigan State, played there in 04, 06, coached there in 12. It's really easy to get in and out of there. Like if you're on the away bus, like it's literally, not all stadiums are created equal. Like some stadiums, like a lot of the NFL stadiums, like the buses drive down under the stadium. Because then it's just that you're completely sealed off from the fans. Spartan Stadium's not like that. Like you park out and then you have to walk in through kind of the masses, and it's one where like the fans could be on both sides of you, like the Ohio State fans that know where the buses pull up. So that's I would bet a lot of money that's when he walked in, because they don't check like sideline credentials when there's 100 players, or they've got 70 players plus training staff, coaching staff. And then when you actually get into the locker room is when everybody gets a credential, gets a press pass. But once you get into the kind of the flow of the game, especially at a place like Michigan State where there's one big tunnel, they're not real militant about checking for the sideline pass. Once the game gets rolling and there's people flowing in and out, like they're not going to stop and look at every single coach to see if they have a press pass. And like Connor, literally, like if he would have just jogged out on the field with a position group, he would have just jogged out with, say, the offensive, all the linemen. Usually there's guys go out in separate groups where it's, you'll have the kickers and punters go out early, and then the rest of the specialists, the punt returners and stuff go out. Then the quarterbacks and receivers go out and they do pat and go, which is where they're just like kind of throwing the ball and the receivers are kind of just jogging, getting loose. And then the last guys that go out are the offensive and defensive linemen. So like if you're Connor, like you could have gone out with any of those groups, and they're not like stopping the coaches and saying, hey, let me see your sideline pass and let me make sure that you guys are all scanned. This isn't like it's TSA at the airport and you have to have your ID out. It's like, once it gets rolling, like it'd be real easy to sneak out there. And Connor knew that, and Connor, he's been around teams and locker rooms, and he knows that, the security guards they're not neurosurgeons or anything. So they're just trying to get their, $15 an hour or whatever. So they're not like going to be like ultra, hey, now let's see it. I mean, there's guys that check the Costco receipts that are more militant than the guys that check the credentials at a stadium usually. So I think that, that's probably what he did. Like I said, the interesting thing is, Michigan had to be in on it, because I'm just telling you, I've been in his shoes. If I would have left the Woody Hayes, and just went on some caper on a Friday night, somebody would have said, where the heck is Kirk at? We need him. Where's he at? Because like, again, when you're a guy who's getting paid to be in the football building, you're working and you have stuff to do. And again, there's nobody that's like, well, we'll let all these other guys do the work, but this guy's making 25 grand. He can just go take the night off and go to the movies or go hang out and, have a few cocktails or whatever. Like everyone is working on a Friday night. And like I didn't, Friday nights when I was, with the team, I didn't get to leave the building till 10:30. Like when we would put the kids to bed, basically for a noon game for like a home game, like we would do test review the night before. We do, we're all hanging out with the team a little bit. A lot of times but like I said, we would always get together as no line. Like we'd have like team chapel and stuff like that. And, like you don't just get to dismiss yourself. So people inside that building knew. I know that Jim Harbaugh he's such a narcissist that it's hilarious because like he believes his own lies. Like he literally has convinced himself that like if I just lean into it, I just really grit my teeth and I say, if my dad and mom taught me not to lie or cheat or steal or never lie, and I have nothing to apologize for, whatever. And I'm like, well, dude, like the problem is like it's great to be just completely obtuse, and it's great to be, like ignorance is bliss. Like that, he should tattoo that on his forehead. Ignorance is bliss, like right here, because he's like, well, I had no idea, but I'm like, dude, like when you're the head coach, it's all under you. This is you. You're the apex. You're at the top of the food chain, and it all falls down into you. So you can say, well, I had no idea that a guy that we're paying money to, like, 20 grand is 20 grand. And again, in coaching, 20 grand for some of these young coaches, that's like $1 million basically, because a lot of these guys are working for free. Like a lot of these guys that are not analysts, but, interns and GAs and whatever, they're not making a lot of money. So, if you're making money that Connor made, you're doing something on Friday. You can't just dip out. So he had to get an okay from somebody. Now I know that everybody's got amnesia now, like they got to have the little Men in Black like wand, but it'd be fascinating to see how many more of these games he potentially going to get to, because it has to be games that are within driving distance and maybe a different time. And you'd have to have some sort of an in there. It'd have to be something where, yeah, I know this guy from coaching at camps, or I knew this guy from the coaching convention or whatever. But it's so fascinating because, the risk reward, if you're Central Michigan, and again, I don't think Jim McElwain was in on it. I think that, they gave that kid a shirt, and, they could say that it's the president's nephew or something standing there, whatever. Like, I mean, I'm not convinced Jim McElwain was totally in on it. Now, I think that there were absolutely people that got him down there that were in on it. But again, that could just be me. And again, I'm not naive, but I've been in the mix and I've been around that stuff. And like, I think if that random kid was down there standing by the kicker net and Urban Meyer was the head coach, I don't think Urban would have any idea who he was. And I don't think he'd care, because he's burning so much energy with his brain that he can't, he's trying to figure out what to do on fourth down. He's not worried about some random kid with Ray-Ban, meta glasses on, filming stuff with the little light on. But that's just my thought about it, because it's so classic, and it'll be interesting to see if any other of these games emerge, because it's just so nutty. Like to think that someone would do this, and to think that they think they get away with this in the era of 4K television and Fox having 30 cameras at every game. Like eventually somebody's going to catch you. Your thoughts on that, Nevada?
Yeah, well, I think they've got him at Western Michigan, and I think that's going to come out. Not that this is a big difference, but Connor Stalions didn't make 20 grand at Michigan. He made $56,000 a year as a player personnel analyst, whatever the heck a player personnel analyst. Now, tell me, do you believe that for a second that Jim Harbaugh had a guy hired in the Michigan football program as a player personnel analyst that he didn't know what they were doing? Does that even
No.
pass the sniff test with you?
No, because here's the thing. If you're a player personnel analyst, like if that was someone at Ohio State, that would be someone who's reporting to Mark Pantoni. And so Mark Pantoni, he's got his little army of minions that, when it's this time of the year, when it's week 1 of college football, you have to assume, high school football opens up this week, right? And then next week, if it's a Friday night, man, there's Thursday night games you can be cutting. There's games from the week before you can be cutting. There's a lot of work that is, this is a real busy time of week for a guy with that kind of title, because you have to get on Huddle and splice film, break film down, load it into thing. And those guys are working 15, 16 hours a day, ungodly. If they're going to break down the top 300 or 400 guys by position, maybe not every position. Receivers, you might do 50 to 100. O-line, if you're taking 5, you probably got to break down 250. like that's a hellacious amount of work, and you got to do it every week. I mean, there's new film that's popping up every week. You got to reach out to coaches, request film. They're not always right on top of getting it to you, sending it to you on Huddle or whatever system they use, Exos. So there's just absolutely no way that you could just say, well, you know what, I'm going to sneak out on this Friday, because again, it's not like you teleport there. Like you got to leave, if it's a 7 o'clock kickoff or 7:30 kickoff. I mean, it was a night game on Fox, Friday night game. Like you got to leave 4 hours before the game starts so you can get there 2 hours beforehand. Because again, if I'm doing this, if you say, Kirk, how would you do it? I'm going when those buses show up. Those buses show up.
But Kirk, forget the Friday night thing. Okay, he's hired as a player personnel analyst. Okay,
Oh yeah.
he's hired to do it. He's hired to do a job, ostensibly to do a job. Now he's clearly not doing any the player personnel thing. Analysts that he's analyzing are the Ohio State sign people. This reminds me of the Seinfeld episode where Kramer goes to that office and just takes over a desk and sits there, and a guy goes, "Frankly, I don't even know what you do," and he's like, "I don't know either." It's like, who was in charge of him? Like this guy that's hired for $56,000 a year, which, as you know, in football, well, that's not the big money. That's good money for an entry level kind of guy that's hanging around the football program. That's good money.
Oh, it's
And
huge money.
so,
Huge.
huge money. So somebody hired him, and where's the work product? What were they getting out of him for this $56,000 other than him orchestrating this multi-year song? And it was so obvious what happened. He got hired May 3rd of 2022. The dry run was through 2021. We proved it all, and they beat Ohio State in 2021. And they were so freaking happy that they're like, "Hey, we'll give you a contract. You can put on your LinkedIn, I study tendencies and strategies and adapt military tactics to, blah, 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 blah. We'll give him this title and we'll go out and do it." And he was just running amok. And there's, for whether Harbaugh, Harbaugh can claim that he had no knowledge, but there is no chance that anybody's getting hired at the football for that, at that kind of salary, that the head coach doesn't have some clue or whether they're asking for some sort of work product from them. You just can't. That it's not the way that it works, because those jobs, like I said, are so coveted. People are willing to work in football for free. That people intern and they people are willing to do it for free to get paid $56,000. Man, you better be bringing the goods at that point. And I just, like I said, I think it's so comical that Stallions is out there doing it. We knew it wasn't the first time. He's out there doing it again. He did it the year before. I mean, sure, that was probably one of his first things. He got hired in May of 2022, and in September of 2022, man, he is on the sideline on that Friday night. Nobody at Michigan knows where he is. Hey, where's Connor? Oh, he's off on some secret mission. Okay, as long as Connor's off on some secret mission. But yeah, no, this story just keeps. This is the gift that keeps on giving. The Michigan. If there ever was a program that lacked institutional control, it's the Michigan athletic program. And the good news is the NCAA understands that. Michigan is on the ropes with the NCAA right now. It's only a question of when they're going to throw the towel in. Are they going to do it before the NOA drops, or are they going to do it after the NOA drops? But Michigan's going down big time. The NCAA isn't playing with them, and I frankly think there's a third and probably a fourth tsunami to hit the Michigan shores after these two everybody gets swept aside on them.
Yeah, and so I looked up while we were talking who coached that first game. Jesse Minter was the head coach. Sherrod Moore was suspended for that game due to violating unspecified NCAA rules along with Harbaugh. So Sherrod was suspended for the first week too. So I forgot about that. I mean, again, I don't really care that much, but it's like, so he's already been suspended for a deal. So when people say so he got suspended for a game, for breaking NCAA rules, and then he breaks them again, and then he deletes texts. And I mean, at some point you have to be like, look, I better play pretty straight here. I better not be jaywalking or doing anything at this point when you keep getting clipped by the NCAA because you're stupid. but again, it keeps happening. So it's gonna be interesting to see how this thing goes down. But I like when you're again in the football building, and again I lived in the Woody Hayes for 3 years as a coach. I'm talking 70 hours a week grind. This was the Urban Meyer days of every day was like Vietnam, as he coined it, and it was something. And again, I loved it because it was just like if you're like a football junkie like I am, it was like Nirvana. Now it was hard. He used to beat us to death every day, which is fine. I mean, I was a big boy. I didn't care, but I loved learning football and learning how to really grind like he did. And but if I would have taken a day off and for some wing ding thing, it would have been it would have been text messages and phone calls and where the F are you and what are you doing, especially in season on like a Friday. I mean, there's so much work that you do on a Friday when you're like a young coach, when you're a GA, like, cause you got to get the scripts ready, playbooks, you got to get the tests ready, you got to grade the tests, you got to go through the tests on Friday night. Like, and again, everybody has a role. Like even Mark Pantoni was there till 10 o'clock at night. I mean, it's not like, the only people that get to leave early are like the secretaries, cause they're what they don't have to be at the building. But even like, Mark Pantoni and those guys, they're all at the Blackwell chill until 10 o'clock, just like everybody else is. Like nobody gets to go home just because they're not a coach or because they're not a GA or whatever. So Connor Stallings would be expected to be at the team hotel with the players. And again, like if that's the life that you want to be there. Like you want to be, okay, let's see how a program's run. Let's see what we do. Let's see what our process is. Let's sit in the meetings. And again, like when I was there, I was, working the meetings with Jim Bowman, Ed Warner, Tom Herman, anything that those guys needed, because you never know what catastrophe is going to happen where the script's wrong or something's misspelled and you got to go back to the Woody Hayes and reprint everything or redo, if we want to make wristbands because we think a team's stealing our signals or whatever. Like there's always gobs of work to do. And like when we were, even like when we always had 5 or 6 kids that were unpaid interns that were students at Ohio State, and they'd be there all night. We would let them go to dinner because we were cheap, but they'd be hanging out with the Woody Hayes, and there's always more stuff to break down. Because a lot of the stuff that I would be doing would be stuff for the next opponent. So if it was the Friday night before the Akron game, I'm breaking down Western Michigan, who's our next opponent. Like when you're a GA, you're always a week ahead. You're always looking at the next opponent because like you got to have on Sunday or on Saturday afternoon when that game's over, like the coaches want the Western Michigan breakdown so they can get ahead of the game and study it some Saturday night. And then Sunday morning, it is full on game plan for the next game. You grade the tape and then you're on. So you can't just go on some caper and say, hey, by the way, I'm going to go take in a college game. And you're not allowed to go. Again, I would love to know what he told the staff. I bet he told them exactly what he was doing because you can't like say, well, I'm going to go watch a high school game because you're banned. Like when I was in my role at Ohio State, I wasn't allowed to go watch a high school football game, unless it's your direct blood relative playing in it. They've got real tight sanctions on that because like the SEC used to have, they'd put 40 guys on the road that were, volunteer coaches and they put them in an LSU, polo and khakis and he'd stand there with a notepad and the kid would be like, wow, LSU came to watch my game. This is great. And there's some low-level staffer who acted like he was a scout. So they put bans on all that stuff because with abuse comes control. So Nevada, anything else you want to talk about? Had a nice little practice inside nugget today. Gabe Powers had a nice play, got a pick today. Anything else you want to touch on from the scrimmage, practice? Will Howard, about to be a monster. He's about to be scary. Anything you want to touch on?
Yeah, I mean, as you said, we have our spies that are at the practice today. Um, Basically, hearing that Will Howard was obviously not only throwing but running wild today, which is something the quarterback run is returning to the Ohio State offense in a big way this year with Will Howard, and Chip loves to have 3 options off every play, likes to have an RPO option, a quarterback keep option. I mean, he likes to present so many different looks, and having a big mobile quarterback like Will Howard is just going to present so many challenges for the defense. But he was getting it done with both his arms and his legs today, which is making my Will Howard for Heisman bet look even better. So there's still some value in that. I think he's like the seventh betting favorite right now. I don't think it's going to stay that way for long. Starting quarterbacks on the best team generally fare well in these things, and this Ohio State team is really, really good. So I'm telling you, get your futures bets down quickly before all the value gets sucked out of it. But no, he was looking great. J.J. Smith doing his thing. As you said, I think Gabe Powers had a pick six. Davison, chatting it up and just kind of providing that spiritual leadership on the defensive side. A lot of energy, always just always running his mouth in a good way, doing his thing. But no, this is a superbly talented team, and a team that's built for an extended playoff for a long season like this, and really rounded into form. Less and less guys out with the mad cow disease, and really looking good. I think we're down to what 12 days or 11 days or whatever it is until we kick it off. So I'm pretty excited.
Yeah, JJ was balling. I'm reading some of these notes from, again, we had this on BuckeyeScoop.com. So people at BuckeyeScoop.com get all this information first, again, which is why you guys should join it. I know Devin's on there. A bunch of you guys have jumped in. Pooh Beard's on here. You guys are on here, and it's absolutely hilarious because, I met a lot of you guys in the chat, and you guys have moved over to the message board, and like Devin's like, I'm on here 20 times a day now, and I was like, wow, it's kind of what it's for. It's like the chat, except it's always on. You guys love this chat that we do for an hour and a half or so a night, and this is like a never-ending chat, so it's really cool. But yeah, the defense is balling. Justin Fry has been torching the offensive line recently, so it has been melting the eardrums. So he's got you got to coach him hard, man, especially when you lose your left tackle, and he's been out for a long time. Donnie Jackson has been out with a lower body injury, and I think he might be at risk for Akron. He might. I mean, if I was Ryan Day and Donnie doesn't come along, I'd probably think about holding him till after the bye week. But this is my opinion, because you don't need him to beat any of those guys. But I think that's on the table. So, but again, you don't need him for Akron. You don't need him for Western Michigan. You could play Carson, Tigra, Seth, and be just fine. Austin Seyerveld. Again, you have to find the silver lining in these situations where you have some sort of crazy disease that you can't game plan for that. Again, I would have bet not a lot, but a decent amount that Carson would be the starting right guard. But when he misses a bunch of practices because of the hand, foot, mouth disease, then Tigra gets a shot. And again, availability is more important than ability, and that's something that Tigra he's done well at. I don't think obviously hasn't been perfect, but he hasn't started a game yet in his career, so he's going to have a lot of hiccups along the way. And I just hope our fans don't treat him like a whipping boy too bad when he screws up. Because again, when you deal with young linemen, man, there are going to be some mess ups, and people are just I've seen him bully these poor kids and beat them to death. So you don't see how hardened Tigra can be, because he's got a ton of ability. His issue has nothing to do with his ability. It just depends on how hard he wants to work, and that's something that if he wants to work, bright future. If he doesn't, then someone will take a spot, because Carson was an Iron Buckeye. So his will has been indomitable so far. Like, you don't just win Iron Buckeye. That is one of the hardest things to win at Ohio State. It's honestly, it's almost as hard as like being a captain or earning captain, because you can't miss anything. You can't have a loaf. You can't miss any workouts. You can't be late to anything. And it's not just that you have to, show up on time. You have to be like elite. Like, you can't get graded down. And Mickey's real tough, man. It is like Jeremiah Smith getting Iron Buckeye as a true freshman is probably one of the craziest things in Ohio State history, because that's never happened before, ever. Because Mick's just not going to give it to a true freshman. But so when he gives it to JJ, that's terrifying as to how good he really is. But again, the whole world's going to see it against Akron. He's going to go ballistic, and it's going to be really, really fun. But I think that the line's going to be good. We're going to have LaCharles on. I talked to LaCharles for about an hour today, and I know a lot of you guys are excited. LaCharles Bentley is one of my really, really dear friends, a guy who is, you talk about the brotherhood. I got guys like LaCharles, Troy Smith, Ted Ginn, Antonio Pittman, Beanie. I saw a bunch of those guys at Troy Smith's outing. Those are the guys that are like my brothers. Like I love those guys to death. I think you guys will love hearing what LaCharles has to say. LaCharles is, I don't know if there's a smarter person on the planet when it comes to talking offensive line play, because that's like his life. His life is, and I like studying offensive line play, but he's like Albert Einstein. Like he's like that guy. I'm just regular old scientist guy. He's like the scientist. So I'm really excited to have him on. Um, Honestly, it depends on when when this baby decides to show up, because I don't want to schedule him and then we're at the hospital and then I gotta push him off. But as soon as the baby shows up and Kim's healthy enough to get back, we'll get LaCharles scheduled. But he's chomping at the bit. He has got a lot of ideas. He loves Ohio linemen. Obviously, he is an Ohio lineman, and he he's the guy that I introduced Taylor Decker to and Elfline. I gave them both. I told LaCharles, like, here's Taylor's phone number, here's Elfline. Those guys have both made multiple millions. I mean, Taylor's made like 120 million. They train with LaCharles every offseason in Arizona. He's like their sensei, and he's their master splinter, and they're the Ninja Turtles. So it's I was so happy for him and proud of him, and he's got a lot of really good ideas, and he's a monster now. And again, he knows. I mean, if there's a guy that would be dynamite in recruiting for Ohio State offensive linemen, it's LaCharles. He's a St. Ignatius dude, educated. I mean, that's a lot of my best. Anthony Gonzalez, Ryan Franzinger, who's the head coach, John Conroy, Dan McLaughlin. These are guys that all went to Ignatius that I played with. Great dudes. I didn't get to play with LaCharles. He's a little bit older than me, but we've been very good friends for about 15 or so years, 16, 17 years from now. I mean, since he came back to Cleveland and signed that deal, he was our honorary captain in the spring game. I've been tight with him for a long time. So really excited to have him on the show. In the comments, what other former Buckeyes would you like for me to have? I know everybody wants Archie. We're trying to get Archie. I love Archie. Archie's son is on our message board, and he said it is by far the best message board. So, I think I might have to dial on a favor to get Arch, just because I love Archie. I see him at every home game. He's the greatest Buckeye who's ever lived. He's the nicest human being in the world. And I don't know, Nevada, do you know anybody that can help us get Archie? Because I'd love to get Archie. Because I've had Trussell and Urban and Orlando and Troy Smith. And Archie is kind of the white whale. But I'll get him on here. So I think it'd be interesting to see what he has to say. But your thoughts on that?
Yeah, if it wasn't for young Casanova Carton there, that cost us the relationship with his
Oh,
secretary. Then
shut
yeah,
up.
no. You can't. I
I
can't help
thought
it
you
that
had.
you're unbelievable.
I thought you had Yank. You have no Yank.
I can't. I can't get there
Jesus.
now that she's mad at us, man. She's like
The gatekeeper. Your girl
the
Mallory. She's
gatekeeper.
mad at you.
She's mad because
Oh,
broke her girl's heart.
that's tough. She's one of a million, so it's fine. Um, all right. They don't need to be so sensitive, especially when I was younger. All right, you ready to roll into some super chats? Let's see what we got. Don Schaefer, what is up, brother? It was great seeing you and your brother Emmett at the Penteric outing. Don's brother Emmett was a rescue helicopter, flew a rescue helicopter into Black Hawk Down. Told one of the most incredible stories I've ever heard at the Penteric golf outing. So from the movie Black Hawk Down, his Emmett was literally in it, Don's brother. So it was, you want to talk about heavy? That was incredible. So Don, I hope you're doing great, my man. Thank you for being an ultra member. Thank you for the 30. Kirk, we love your film breakdowns. Have you guys made any traction on film access and ability to do a couple plays per game? It would be a massive for post-game broadcasts. You guys are the best in the business. Yeah, we can usually get a little bit of film from the TV copy. That doesn't seem to get smoked as much as if you do pure all 22, it always gets a copyright strike. And those are something we're just not going to mess with. It's not worth losing the video because we got to show all 22. Now again, that's not my role, and it sucks. But that's just something that YouTube is pretty militant about. So we've tried it in the past. Trust me, I watch all 22 film all the time, every day, and it's like I was like, man, I'd love to break this down, but on YouTube you just can't do it. But we can usually get some TV gear in there, and I can telestrate it a little bit because I know I love breaking down film because a lot of the stuff that is really clear to me is stuff that I just think that people that haven't coached and played and I devoted, the first half of my life to playing football and coaching football and learning football. And so I've got like an innate sense to see what people are doing. It's like when I go watch a football practice, like I can see exactly why people are doing what they're doing from a scheme perspective. And most people can't really see that. Like it'd be like if I went and watched a baseball practice, I would have absolutely no idea what's going on. If I went and watched a hockey practice, I would have no idea what's going on. I go watch football, I know exactly what's going on, just because that's what my life was. So, and I just love studying it, just because I think it makes me better, which makes you guys better, because you guys like to tune into this thing, and we work really hard to make sure that this is a good use of your time. This isn't just like it's some, hey, let's roll the microphones out there and see what we can do, and hopefully it'll be okay. It's like, no, like we prep hard for this thing to make sure that you guys have a really good, thoughtful show. So we will do that. Again, we love breaking down film on the post game and just kind of seeing some of the good stuff. Now, obviously, like against Akron, it's going to be such a bludgeoning. I don't know what I could possibly break down, but we'll see what we could get. Watch JJ Smith run right past this poor hapless cornerback. We straight line into the end zone, but I'd love to do that. Don, again, Don, I appreciate you, my man. Thanks for the 30. Nevada, they love our film breakdowns. If you guys made traction on film accessibility, a couple plays per game, it'd be massive, and we are the best in the business. What are your thoughts on that, Nevada?
Yeah, just understand the film. I mean, it's strictly just a copy. I mean, YouTube's got these really sophisticated AI bots that look for stuff that's copyright. I mean, if it wasn't for that, man, we literally would break film down every single podcast, because
Oh yeah,
Kirk's so good at it.
I
I've
love it.
learned so
Yeah.
much from him. He'll be like, Nevada, look at this. This guy pins this guy, and now this guy goes off his hip, and the guy really. And we'd love to show that to you, because Kirk and I laugh all the time about how people are talking about, they use this big terminology, Y, monkey, press, zone, fade, ganja, whatever going on. And we're like, man, it just show people what the defense is, show people what they're trying to do. Because football, while the terminology is complicated, it's not all that complicated of a game. I mean, there's some basic things that if you understand, um, that can kind of help. And you can, having the visuals of seeing that. Trust me, we would do it all the time, but we're constantly looking for ways that we can get around the rules in terms of getting it without getting the videos done. But appreciate the kind words, and we'll keep working on it.
Thank you, Don. Look forward to seeing you soon, my friend. Appreciate you. Uh, Pramjit Sadhu, appreciate you, my man. Thanks for the deuce. Congrats on baby number 3. Man, go Buckeyes. Appreciate you, my man. Thank you. Any day. I mean, we're like every hour or two, I check with Kim when I'm working downstairs and say, hey, how you feeling? How's it going? Some more. She's like, let's get more pressure. It feels like any minute now. So, I'm ready for the text or the call. I mean, she's in the chat usually, so she might say, hey, babe, wrap the show. We got a boogie. So, but no, it'll be out by tomorrow, I think. But again, she knows her own body better than anybody. So, but we just, this isn't our first rodeo. This is number 3. So it's different when it's the first one and whatever. So, with the third one, she's kind of been around it and she knows her body obviously really well. So, any minute now. So but we appreciate all the kind of words and texts, and appreciate all you guys reaching out. But we're excited. Obviously, it's going to be another miracle, another blessing. It'll be really fun for us. So again, Kim is a beast and she's awesome. So we appreciate all of the kind words. Buckeye BA, thank you for the deuce. Can the O-line coach be switched for recruiting? Nevada, do you want me to take this? I've been talking a lot. Do you want to take a crack at this? Or you want me to go first?
No, I'll let you go first on this, because I know
Okay.
this is near and dear to your heart. So,
Well, so I get this a lot because people are like, well, Justin Fry stinks and he can't recruit, and we missed on another guy, and the world's ending, and how are we ever going to survive? And I'm just like, well, the problem is like, look, if you have to send out somebody else to recruit for the line coach, then all of a sudden it's like, well, like it's just, you can't send like some emissary out, because for one, it looks terrible. Like if I was like, it was kind of like the situation James Laurinaitis was in last year, where he was like an analyst, GA, whatever. When they're sending him out, every team in the country is saying that he's not the real linebackers coach. So, he's not going to be there. He's an analyst. Because, the problem is like, say, like by some magic thing, they hired me or Charles Bentley or whoever to be like the assistant line coach. And I'm like the head of O-line recruiting. And I'm the guy going out. Every program, Georgia, Bama, every program in the world is going to say, that's the dumbest thing in the world. He's not the real line coach. The guy that you're going to go play for isn't good enough to come see you. There'd be all this convoluted thought where it's like, well, what is the real line coach too busy to come see you? Because Bama sent their headline coach, and Tennessee sent their headline coach, and Georgia sent their headline coach, and Michigan sent their headline coach, but Ohio State sent their little Geppetto line coach. So I think it would be counterproductive, personally. Um, Again, I don't know how to overcome the fact that David Sanders is a guy who's a homebody, and Tennessee is like 3.5 hours from home or 4 hours from home, and Ohio State isn't. Like, I think if Justin Fry was the O line coach at Tennessee, he probably wins David Sanders, and everyone thinks he's some sort of incredible, awesome O line coach, but he's not. He's at Ohio State, and I've heard a million times, well, people have to sell development and stuff. I'm like, well, maybe that doesn't really matter. Maybe the kid's like, if it's all close to equal, because Tennessee, their O-line development is nowhere near as good as Ohio State's, but that might not be the kid's most important thing. I mean, they had a first-round tackle like 2 years ago, so it hasn't been like 1,000 years. And I know that, well, we developed DeWan and we developed, Thayer. And again, I'm not making excuses for Justin Fry, but I'm just trying to like give you guys like, not all these kids are just like, man, I can't wait to go have my parents flying from Charlotte and go to Ohio State every week. So again, I'm not an excuse maker. I mean, everyone's like, well, how can we get all these receivers? How can we get all these running backs? How can we get all these other positions? I'm like, well, we've literally always done that. Like, I mean, we got Michael Jenkins from Tampa, and we got Gamble from Dillard High School, and we got, those two wide receivers that we took that were from Florida. And, we've never gotten like a ton of Nashville guys except for when Stud was here. Stud got Harry Miller from Georgia, and he got Nick Petit Frere from Tampa, and he got, all these guys. And, people say, well, no, it was because of this other coach, that other coach. I'm like, people that say that just don't understand how recruiting works. They really don't. I'm like, do you really think that an offensive lineman is going to commit to like Mike Vrabel because he's a D-line coach? Like, oh, that's it's the dumbest thing I've ever heard in my life. Like, I mean, like if the kid doesn't like the O-line coach and he's some 5-star with real options, like he's got to like the line coach, man. You can't hide the offensive line coach. So I don't know. But I think it would actually be productive to shift the guy, because I've heard, should we put Tim Drevno on the road? Should we, whatever, I'm like, I don't think that I think that would actually worsen the situation. I think it'd make us look like total morons, which is why we're not going to do it. Because like, I mean, again, if I'm the O-line coach at Georgia and I walk into some David Sanders Junior High School or wherever, or Tennessee, and Justin Fry isn't the guy that they send. They send some backup intern analyst GA O-line coach. Like, I think we look like morons, like complete morons. And I know that, like, Justin Fry might not be Rico Suave or whatever, because everyone's like, oh, well, he's not a smooth recruiter. I'm like, dude, I've never met an offensive line coach that was like some buttery smooth, recruiter that was swooning. Like, O-line coaches don't usually have veneers, and they don't usually have like a Ferrari, and they don't usually, wear whatever. They're not wearing, $6,000 suits with, with 5 buttons on them and stuff. They're line coaches. They're the fat, dumpy guys in the corner at the prom with the fat, dumpy girlfriend, and they are fat, dumpy people because that's what O-line guys are. I get it. So they're not always going to be like these big, smooth dudes. And people are like, well, how's Alabama do it every year? I was like, I don't know. I don't like to compare to Alabama because they're such an anomaly, but they've got it cooking. And they've had like 10 different offensive line coaches in the last 15 years. So it's not like they have some Wizard of Oz guy sitting in their O-line room that just like brings all the 5-stars in, but they know how to do it. I mean, they took a kid out of Pennsylvania. They took a kid out of Texas. I mean, they got a kid out of California. So they do something different. So again, to compare to them, little different, but again, I'm not an excuse maker. Trust me. I literally sat in that room and watched us lose Seantrell Henderson and watched us lose Andre Walker to USC, and and again, and I mean this sincerely as I look into this camera. Somehow we survived and we were okay, and we won a national title in 2014 with guys that I was recruiting. With Ed Warner and with Jim Bowman and with Jacoby, Daryl Baldwin, Elfline, guys that Jim Bowman offered, who, people, these guys that are these recruiting writers that have never played football in their lives or coached football in their lives or really evaluated worth anything. They're like, oh, another 3-star Ohio turd. Like, guys, like, why don't we let's see how their career plays out before we just crucify them and throw them in a hole and bury them, like, before they've even signed their letter of intent. And turns out, like, we missed on Kyle Kalis. Oh my God. Burn the building down. And I love Kyle Kalis. I'm still friends with Kyle Kalis. Even though he's a Michigan guy, whatever. I've been very tight with Kyle for a long time. He knows he made a mistake. He knows it was stupid to go to Michigan. He was a young kid. There was a family thing there. It was horrible what that family did to Kyle to make him go there. But Elfline was better. Won a Remington, got drafted. But Kyle Kalis didn't get drafted. But I'm telling you, when we didn't get Kyle Kalis, it burned the Woody Hayes down. Fire Jim Bowman. I mean, God, they probably have crucified me too. They put me and him both up on the cross and get rid of both of them. Tar and feather us, burn us with oil, like whatever medieval tricks you guys want to do to us. It's like, that's what they were going to do to us when we lost Kyle Kalis. I'm like, can we just see if Elfline's better, please? And he was, so shock of shocks. Kyle never beat Ohio State. They, back when we used to bludgeon Michigan every year, back with our Ohio guys, our little 3-star turds, Taylor Decker, So I don't know. Like again, I'm a big fan of let's see how the career is finished. Let's see how it plays out. But that's just me. What are your thoughts, Nevada?
Well, you just pointed out the difficulty in terms of doing it. You can't just have one guy out there trying to establish a relationship, and Justin Fry's who you're riding with. Unless you've got Jessica Alba that can come in there as like the pinch hitter and go out there on some of these visits. Justin Fry's got to go do it, and yeah, we're going to be fine. Look, I wanted David Sanders as much as the next person. The more I hear about David Sanders, I'm fine that we didn't get him, and we'll be fine. And the more I hear about Van Sickle and Moore and Steerwald and Padilla and Montgomery, we've got guys. We've got guys, and we've got an unbelievably offensive line friendly scheme now. And last year I think they pointed out it was the lowest rushing yards per carry since 2004 or something, something crazy. But look, this year it's going to go up by magic with the same players, same running backs, same everything, but it's going to go up like magic. Scheme is undefeated when it comes to running the football, and we have scheme in abundance this year. So yeah, I'm not worried.
Not worried at all. And I want to give a quick birthday shout out, Larry Daniels. Appreciate you, brother. You're on here every night. So happy birthday, my dude. Thank you for being a part of the Scoop family every night. Again, we love kicking it with you guys. We love answering your questions. This is always a great time. But keep the faith, folks. Everybody wants to burn everything down. If we still have the number one recruiting class in the country, we have the best team in the country. And honestly, all I care about right now is 2024. Because you know what could have been a nice monkey wrench to throw into the whole situation? We got a really good O-line. Really good O-line. Good team. Team is like peaking the way I want it. If all of a sudden it gets leaked that we pay David Sanders $1 million, when that's about what we pay our entire offensive line that's playing for Ohio State this year, does that do anything? Do guys feel some type of way? Do guys not? Is that not great for chemistry? And again, I don't know. Maybe it doesn't. Maybe there's no human nature involved at all. Maybe I'm crazy. Maybe you can say, Kirk, you're off your rocker again. You've been in Pappy's cough syrup, whatever. But I don't want anything to mess with the morale of this team right now. This team is focused. I think we got it right at captain. I've loved Cody Simon longer than any person on earth. Because, I mean, I was writing about him in 2021 when people said that he reminded them of AJ Hawk, got made fun of for 4 straight years. And guess what? He's the block O, runs a 4.5. He's probably going to be all Big Ten, might end up being All American. You know, I mean, he just doesn't have any production yet. But, like, if now that his body isn't falling apart, he doesn't have his shoulders ripped out of the sockets, like, looks like he's going to be pretty good. He's the highest vote getter for captain. So shout out Cody. Proud of you, dude. I appreciate you. But yeah, let's get to the sex with Dave Mathis. Appreciate you. Thanks for the deuce. Thanks for being an Ultra member as well. The circus up north. It really is like, it's, you know, like I said, I hate Michigan. I don't care about Michigan, but they're so dumb that I'm just like, did all of these like rich, wealthy billionaires and millionaires that donate to Michigan, like, did they all die? Do they not pay attention? Can they not read the news? Like, do they not see what's going on up there? I mean, honestly, they need to start watching this show because we could probably inform them more than they're getting informed. But they do so many things that are just completely moronic that it's like laughable. I'm like, you guys seriously are gonna like honor Jim Harbaugh, like when you guys are getting investigated by the NCAA after they suspended him for a season and they give a 4 year. You're gonna like the first game back, we're gonna have him on the sideline and and have Ward, Jabba the Hutt come like strutting out there and like, oh my god, like tone deaf. I mean, tone deaf isn't even it at this point. It's so crazy, but. I don't know, Nevada. Again, Dave Mathis, appreciate you. The circus up north, Nevada. Any comments on the wonderful circus up north?
Well, yeah, just if any one, just think about it from an Ohio State perspective. If any one of these scandals was happening at Ohio State, if Chris Holtman was like slugging opposing coaches, or
Oh God,
Nadine Muzzerall was, falsifying medical reports for players, or whatever. I mean, like, we'd be horrified, man. We are our own worst. We'd be like, oh my God, we'd be the self-flagellation mode right now and saying 1,000 Hail Marys and doing everything. I mean, it'd be terrible. There'd be rending of clothes, and I mean, it'd be terrible. For Michigan, that's just another day at the office, man. For Michigan, they just roll them out there. And so when we've been talking about Ward Manuel being under fire, this is what we're talking about. And there's other stuff that's better. They have paid and settled a lot of people to make stuff go away. The stuff we told you about is all there. That's all public domain. That's all there. This isn't just stuff that we're talking about on a podcast or, oh, that's clickbait. This is all there. The Juwan Howard stuff was all we saw it in real time on television. The hockey stuff was a result of a Michigan internal investigation. The Jim Harbaugh stuff is an NCAA investigation. I mean, it's all there, and it's all happened under Ward Manuel. So I don't know what the end game for him is right now. It's got to be resign once they do this settlement / whatever with the NCAA, and he just kind of throws himself on the funeral pyre at that point because they're trying to clean house and they do it. But yeah, it is a circus. It's a mess, and every day it just seems like another scandal keeps brewing, and it just keeps getting better and better.
I totally agree. Larry Daniels, happy birthday, my man. Thank you for the super chat. Thank you for being an Ultra member. Big thanks for creating an amazing Scoop family. Appreciate that. Thoughts and prayers as the Barton family grows. Continued success for you, Nevada, and all staff. Well, we really appreciate that, Larry. It's been something we've worked really hard at with what we've created with this community. Obviously, it started on the message board. It's grown through this podcast format. It's something that, frankly, we take seriously. I mean, again, I would bet we've banned more than every podcast combined because we don't put up with filth. We don't put up with people harassing our members. And it's like that on our board. And again, with a lot of these things, 1% of your population is 99% of your problem. So you get rid of a couple people magically, it's good. And again, we want this to be for everybody, but we're not going to let it be stupid. We're not going to let it be filthy. We're not going to let people harass our members. So we've got an incredible group, and I know a lot of people really look forward to it. So again, it's like having like a well-policed city, like you want somewhere where you feel safe and you guys have a good time. You get to know everybody, and people have got to know each other offline and gone out to lunch with each other. And that's like the greatest thing ever is when people say, hey, look who I met up with, like from the Scoop family, from this thing. Cause a lot of you guys would have never met ever. in life if it wasn't for this platform. So we take it real seriously. Like we want you guys to have a good time, get to know each other, feel the community. Again, we have our get-togethers. It's always great seeing like Beth and Karis and Steely, and we're gonna get Akeem and Devin to some of these. Kim's always running around at these, and they're awesome. I get a ton of my friends that show up. People drive from all over Christian, people fly in for our get-togethers, and um, it's just incredible. Like, I mean, it's so fun to meet you guys in person, talk to you guys, hear how much you guys enjoy the show. I get people that, like I said, I get people to come to me everywhere. Like I was at Best Buy walking in. I watch your show every night. Dude, I really appreciate that. It means a lot to me. People sitting there, like I was sitting at Twin Peaks the one night and the guy walks up and says, my wife really doesn't want me to come up and say hi, but I listen to your show every night. I love your show. And I'm a long haul. He literally said I'm a long haul trucker. Some people complain that our shows are too long, but when you guys send in super chats, like we answer them, and sometimes that runs into an hour, hour and a half. But the guy's like, "Don't change your format." I love it because I drive my truck every night, and I love listening to the show. And I was like, "That's the coolest thing ever," And again, I love meeting people and thanking them for enjoying the show, and we put a lot of work into it. Like this isn't like we don't just roll it out there and hopefully it goes okay. Like and you can ask Nevada because I annoy the crap out of him because I call him 10 times a day. Like, hey, do you think we should talk about this? What do you think about this? Maybe we could do this film clip. What do you think about this? Because we're always trying to make sure that it's tight and it's good. And then we know that you guys bring these incredible questions in the super chats, or when we do the Scoop Ultra episodes, which have been awesome. Because we love hearing what you guys are thinking and how can we help maybe answer some questions or give our thoughts on things. So again, we appreciate all that you guys do because it makes the show special that we've got such a great crew. We look forward to seeing you guys as much as you look forward to seeing us. And it's fun. Like I genuinely mean that. Like, I love it. Like again, we're a family business. Like I got my wife in here moderating, and Nevada's got some of his crew in here moderating. So it's it's tight. And we got Akeem and Devin, Sean Schrock, Sean Rollins. So we've got a nice crew of people that make sure that it's safe and clean and fun. And again, because we're not going to put up with stupid. We're not people that we don't need to have some guy who harasses our members, but he super chats, and we're going to let that go. Like, it's not going to fly around here. Sorry. Larry Daniels, again, happy birthday, my friend. And thank you for the follow. Thank you for the ultra member. It says, Nevada, big thanks for creating an amazing Scoop family. Thoughts and prayers the Barton family continues to grow. Continued success for you, Nevada and staff. Your thoughts, Nevada?
Just appreciate the kind words. I mean, it's the show's a genuine phenomenon, and our audience is phenomenal. We work really hard at trying to give you guys a good product, but I know you guys bring it every night too, and it's great energy, and it's just a lot of fun being here. But we just really appreciate what everybody brings to the show. This really is a consumer driven show. So just thank you guys for being here.
Agree. Rohan Vangel, hope you're doing great tonight. Thank you for the deuce. I'm more worried about the tight end room / coach long term. I would assume that you're comparing that to the offensive line room. I could see why you'd be worried about that room, but my thing is it's just one guy. Well, the O-line is 5 guys on the field every play. You always got to have 5 linemen on the field. So, if I have to hide a coach or have a room that maybe could be a little more suspect, that it'd probably be the tight end room. I think we've had we got a lot of guys where this is kind of a make or break year for some of these guys that are coming into year 2, year 3. Jelani is the unicorn. I mean, he could catapult that room into being something special, or it could be just kind of subpar, really depending on Jelani. He's the guy that could really take it to a new level. I think G. Scott kind of is what he is. Like, I think he'll be a good guy, probably an undrafted free agent, or probably try to make a team in camp next year in the NFL. Kazmarik's probably the same way, probably an undrafted guy. And then, Jelani's the guy that has a chance to be like a guy, like a real guy. So, but they've got to put him in a chokehold, man. I'm telling you, I've seen these kids before that are talented, and it's like breaking a wild horse, man. You got to figure out a way to get it done, even though you might fall off and break your neck a couple times with Jelani. But that's what he is, because once you figure it out, then all of a sudden, and the light bulb goes on, then he could be as good as we've had. But that's that's up to him because he's physical, he's tough, but he's got to stay focused. You know, he's the guy that could dent our defensive ends and knock them back, and he's got that kind of explosion and that kind of ability. But can they harness that? You know, and again, I know that they've got Keenan, and we've Keenan's Keenan, but we got Tim Hinton in there helping, and Tim was he was the tight ends coach in I want to say 12, 13, 14, 15. He was there until Greg Studoir came in 16, I believe. And then I think 17 was when Wilson showed up and Day. I can't remember, but Wilson got there, and that's when they demoted Tim to an off the field role, where he kind of still helped with the tight ends, but he couldn't do it like as actively as he is now. Now that they took the coaching cap away, he can be basically like a co-tight ends coach with Keenan Big Legs. That's kind of what he is. But yeah, I don't know. Like if I was, if I ran the show, I would get a guy like Vince Morrow, who's just a juggernaut recruiter at that tight end spot. A guy who's got deep ties, and a guy that doesn't. He's got really really deep high school ties, and he's a monster recruiter now. I don't know if Keenan is that. Maybe he is. Maybe I'm wrong. But the results don't show it yet. But I mean, that's where you hide your energy guy who, he might not be the greatest coach in the world, but he's a great recruiter. I'd hire a guy from Peachtree, from like Metro Atlanta, like from Texas, from Florida, somewhere where it's like, as soon as I hire this guy, it's going to give us a big edge in recruiting a territory where we want to have a big edge. That's why I thought getting Carlos Loughlin, who's from Alabama, I think that helps. He's from Montgomery, and he can get around, and he knows the South better than I'd say others do. He's from there. I think that being from there helps because you're naturally going to have relationships with high school coaches that you've kind of came up in the ranks or played against or whatever. Small world. But that's just my opinion. Nevada, again, next for the Deuce Rohan. He says he's more worried about the tight end room / coach long term. What are your thoughts?
Yeah, I mean, probably long term, that's probably a legitimate concern. But in the short term, look, G and Will Kesmerick and Jelani are all doing better. They're doing better, and it's going to be interesting to watch the utilization of the tight end room this year because Chip loves to throw to the tight end. That's kind of his safety blanket. That's kind of his, when he needs a play, when it's 3rd and 4, they like to go to the tight end. Will they continue to do that this year? Will those guys be able to produce? Will Chip's magic kind of rub off on Keenan Bailey, and will he look a lot better? I don't know. I thought, Keenan did a decent job recruiting this year. Got two, real good looking tight end prospects in. So I'm willing to give him a chance, give him the benefit of the doubt, and let's see how he rolls this year. And then we can revisit at the end of the year to see if those are still the whipping boys or if we've somehow assembled the perfect staff.
Totally agree. District Fire, thank you for the 20. I hope you're doing well, my friend. Another great show. If the hammer drops on the Cheaters Up North in the morning, would you guys take the show live right then with adult beverages and celebrate all day? Well, I'm sure we do the live show right then. I probably wait till I hit the off switch before I crack my first Mick Ultra at Twin Peaks or Buffalo Wild Wings, but who knows? I mean, it's hard because, we really like the I really like doing the 7 o'clock show. We try not to delineate because I know that a lot of people really look forward to it at 7. So, I think that that's just a natural fit for us. In the evening, we kind of structure our day around it. But I don't know. What are your thoughts of that? If the hammer drops on the Cheaters Up North in the morning, would you take the show live right then with the adult beverages and celebrate all day? I mean, we might be flying to Vegas. I don't know. I mean, that'd be a wild one now. When this hammer drops, I mean, this thing's been a long time coming. I think it's gonna be absolutely fantastic.
Well, let me tell you. First of all, the hammer is dropping, so
Yeah.
it is not a question of if. It's just a question of when. And yeah, that day is definitely going to be a day of big time celebration. It's going to be a celebration just for what's right and just in the world. And it's, I want to go back to Justin Spiro for a second on his Twitter thing, but he just did a great job of showing all the, all these Michigan guys, all the hypocrisy of the Michigan guys. That when Tressel went through his challenges, oh man, they were just unyielding about doing things the right way and no cheating, and how this scandal clouds everything. And it's just funny watching their comments then to their comments now, and he points it all out there. But there's nobody that's bigger hypocrites than the Michigan fan base, and there is no team that is going to get hit harder than the Michigan Wolverines, and it's going to happen. And when it does, it's going to be awful tempting to go right then and just have a 24-hour gloat fest on these people. Nothing's going to happen. Nothing's going to happen. Oh yeah, wait and see, guys. It's coming, guys. And Pete Thamel, I don't believe there will be anything vacant. Okay, Pete. Pete's really good at his job, but on this one, he's just missed the mark completely. So I'm telling you, hammer incoming. Watch, wait for it. It could be any time now.
Do you think that with them getting the draft notice of allegations that there was, okay, guys, we'll give you this, but we're trying to get they got the PR department, they've got the PR firm dialed in. Hey, we'll give you this, but the edict has to be that it's not going to be bad, and Jim Harbaugh's gone, and do you think that was the trade-off? Hey, we'll let you break this, and this will give you guys a lot of clicks, and you guys will make a lot of money on this. But for us giving you this, it's not going to be bad, and it's going to be okay, and Michigan's the greatest, and because that's kind of what it was. And I'm like, guys, like, I know that you guys have to like kind of whore yourself out on that, but like, it's crazy when you actually read that and you're like, oh yeah, nothing's going to happen. I'm like, I don't know what universe you're living in, but I mean, I studied these NCAA cases, and I was like, what they did was a million times worse than the cheeseburger gate thing, and they got smashed over that. And again, Sharon Moore got suspended for a game last year by the NCAA, not by Michigan. So I mean, like, I don't know what these guys think is going to happen, but would you keep, being repeat offenders? Eventually, like, man, you're going to get destroyed for that, and you don't cooperate. I mean, it's like, what are we talking about? What are your thoughts on that, Nevada?
Well, that is precisely what happened. I mean, that's not even a question. I mean, that's precisely what happened. Michigan linked it to Thamel. Thamel wrote that. But if you notice, kind of the national media thing for a long time, the Ohio State fans were a little insecure about things because, like, nobody in the national media is really talking about this or talking about it's no big deal. And you can see the tone on that is slowly but surely changing, and more people are coming out with, no, this is kind of a big deal. No, this wasn't just about a cheeseburger. Oh no, this is, and I'm telling you, the Stallions documentary is not going to help. This is not going to get them off the hook. This is not going to be one of those things that people are going to watch and go, wow, I really wasn't sure, but now I'm convinced Michigan is being wrongfully. This is bad. It was a bad idea for him to do it, but Connor Stallions is kind of the poster child for like bad ideas. Like when you think of bad ideas, you think of Connor Stallions, and this is just another. It's a PR blunder that he's doing this. The timing on it couldn't be worse. With the NCAA just now getting ready to really start sharpening the guillotine, ready to drop it on them. So yeah, just another big miscalculation by Stallions, miscalculation by Michigan, and miscalculation by some people in the national media, including guys like Pete Thamel, who got sucked in by the scoop, but they've got the story all wrong.
I just think that, like, with Connor Stallions being basically like a sociopath at this point, where he's like, I'm going to form an LLC with our best player, with Blake Corum, who's a guy that Doak Walker type candidate, All American. We're going to sell used vacuums, and Blake Corum signed off. I mean, I don't care what anybody says. Like, he didn't do that without Blake Corum's consent and form an LLC and commit a felony. And then he goes to this Western Central Michigan versus Michigan State game. Someone's funding all these tickets. Like, we're gonna find out who is, because again, when you're making 50 and after taxes it's like 30, like, you can't go out and spend 50 something $1,000 on Ticketmaster stuff, and and then you're sending the tickets, because again, that's all electronic transfer. Like, because paper tickets don't exist anymore. It's not like you can FedEx paper tickets to some guy and say, hey, here's your tickets. Like, no, like, those don't exist. Like, at Ohio State, I don't think you can get a paper ticket anyway. The tickets that we get, they're all electronic, and you hold your phone up, and so there's an electronic trail for all of that. And it has to be on the app. You can't send a screenshot of the ticket because of the way the scanner works. So it'll be fascinating to see how many games, where, and those are just the ones that they've found. And let alone did he go to any other games in person? Which again, like when you read about the caper with the fake mustache and the glasses, and people try to downplay them, like that's insanity. Like I couldn't imagine trying to pitch that to like Urban Meyer or Tom Herman or Luke Fickle or Tressel or any of those guys and saying, hey, you know what I'm going to do is, we play Marshall on a Thursday night. Like in 2010, we opened against Marshall on like a Thursday night. This Saturday, I'm going to drive up to the Michigan game. I'm going to sneak in with Akron and jack their signals and stand there like, Justin, you're fired. Like there's no question. You're done. Stupid. Even for presenting that, because again, that could get an entire staff fired, and it's going to. But it's I don't know. It's just nuts. Cordero Jackson, thank you for the 10. Appreciate you, my friend. Cut the BS. Michigan's defense is not going to be good. I agree with you. Only reason why they was good is because they knew what the play was. Sick of the media acting like the cheating, it never happened, and ranked their D higher. I will say they have some very good players. Like 55 is really good. Their one defensive tackle he's a problem. We're going to block him this year. Kenneth Grant. Their 2D tackles are fantastic players. Will Johnson is a good player, especially if Marvin jogs a slant and doesn't break up the pick. And then we throw it, which is even better. It was like, you might as well just played catch in the Heinegate logs. That's what that looked like when Will picked off Colin McCord to start the game. I think they'll have good players, but the difference this year, the thing that people don't realize is when you talk about football, a lot of times great defense is also a combination of great offense. And again, it's not just because we score 1 million points, the defense can be better. But if you're a team that's physical and you run the ball and you control the clock and you make the defense play less, then they're magically going to be better because they're going to be fresher and they're going to have to defend fewer plays. So if you have to defend 10 or 15 fewer plays a game because the other team's controlling the clock and running the ball. Like you look at the NFL last year, like Baltimore is the best defense in the NFL. And guess what? They had Lamar Jackson and a pretty devastating running game that complemented what they did. Michigan was the ultimate last year because they were ground and pound, run the ball, pulverize the opposing defense, control the clock, and then keep the defense in good spots. Honestly, what Michigan did last year was basically trestle ball in 2024. Run the ball, control the clock, play great defense, and kind of enforce your will. And obviously they're cheating the whole time too, so that makes it even easier when you know what the plays are. But the difference is they're not going to have that running game this year. I'm telling you, like people are saying, oh, well, everything will be the same and they'll be just as good. Like guys, they got 5 new offensive linemen starting. They have a guy that got benched last year after 4 games starting, and then the rest of them are all new. So that takes time to gel. I don't care who you are. I don't care. And you lose Jim Harbaugh, and Jim Harbaugh is one of the best offensive line guys in football. Like everywhere he goes, if he's at Stanford, San Francisco, Michigan, magically the offensive lines get way better because he values that, and he just knows how. I think San Diego, or the Los Angeles Chargers they're gonna be a really good running team this year. They draft Joe Alt. They've got a Pro Bowl tackle with Rashawn Slater, and they don't need to pay big time running backs. They could do it with J.K. and Gus and Vidal. They're a 6th round pick, and they can they're gonna mash people. Like that's his MO. And I don't know if Sharon Moore can carry that by himself now that he potentially could be getting suspended, but he's just not Jim Harbaugh. His first coaching job. There's going to be hiccups. Like, I don't care what anybody says. It's kind of like with Ryan Day. Like Ryan, he got handed the keys to Ohio State, and that's a gift and a curse, because you don't get to learn. You're learning lessons under the most white hot spotlight in the universe of coaching one of the top 5 or 6 programs in the country, like Michigan, Ohio State. Like you don't get to learn at Akron or Iowa State or somewhere. Like everyone in the nation is going to be watching you, and frankly, their schedules is really hard. They got to play Texas, they got to play Oregon, they got to see us. Like it's gonna be a long year for the Blue Bellies. So Nevada, your thoughts, Cordero Jackson. Thanks for the 10. He's just got the BS. Michigan's defense is not going to be good. Only reason why they was good is because they knew the play, sick of the acting like the cheating. It never happened in ranking their D higher. What are your thoughts?
Yeah, I think it's a joke that they're D, that anyone could rank their D better than our D this year. I mean, I think our D is going to be historically good. As you said, they've got a couple of good players on the line and one real good player in the defensive backfield, and then nothing else. Very little depth. Heaven forbid they have an injury. They're really in deep kimchi. But now I am telling you, every year there's a program that underperforms expectations. It happens every year, and this one is so obvious to me. It's so clear that it's going to be Michigan, and I think it'll be on offense. I think it'll be on defense. I think it's going to be across the board. And as you said, football is a complementary game. When you run the ball, control the clock, defense is not on the field. Um, '07 or whatever it was, you guys were number one in the country in defense. A lot of that's because you ran the heck out of the ball on offense.
Yeah.
So that is exactly the way it's going to be this year for Michigan. They're going to go out there and they've got a quarterback who can't play. Orji cannot play. They'll probably end up playing the ninth year guy Tuttle or whatever. I mean, Tuttle was like literally like the 2018 recruiting class or some ridiculous thing like that. But no, I think Michigan's going to underachieve, and I think that defense is definitely going to take a big step back this year.
Totally agree. Survived the hunt. Thank you for the 5. What's the best lesson in leadership you've learned from Buckeye football? In Scoop, we trust. Go Bucks. Appreciate you, my man. God, there are a lot. I mean, Tress was like the master of just, we used to do this thing called quiet time every morning where we would sit and, it'd be 7 a.m. and everyone's groggy and feels like crap. And we're going to go practice. And he had these winner's manuals that we'd get, and they'd have a different section. Like it would be like toughness or gratitude or service or something. He'd say, all right, today's lesson is on page 162, toughness. And we'd read it, and he'd say, do any quotes stand out? Like people raise their hand, say a couple quotes, and he'd always have us write what we were thankful and grateful for every day. So chess was like the ultimate, but I think that because I talked to the guys that are going to be captains, a couple of them, and I'm just like, the biggest thing about being a captain at Ohio State is like it's a gift and a curse, because when you're a captain, like you're the guy that everybody looks at. You're the guy that you have to be on point. You're the guy that has to be locked in. You're the guy that has to have good practices. You're the guy that has to have good games. Like you really can't have bad days. You got to do everything you can, and everyone's gonna have a bad day, bad play, whatever. But you have to do everything in your power to minimize that and mitigate that. Because in '07, you got to understand, like, what I was walking back from. Like, I mean, all of my guys were gone. All of my homies were gone. So Troy was gone. One of my best friends, TJ Downing, was gone. Gonzo, one of my best friends, was gone. Ted Ginn was gone. Pittman was gone. So I had played with all those guys since '04 because I started as a redshirt freshman. So, '04, '05, '06, it was kind of the same core of guys. Obviously some guys would move on, like Dick Mangold and Rob Sims moved on in '05. But, there was a core of us that were kind of together from that '04 to '06 time. So, '07, we're coming back, and we just gotten absolutely massacred by the Florida Gators. So the offseason was horrible. I mean, we were getting beat to death every day by the media and by our fan base. And again, it's fine. Like, again, I am not, like I said, when you lose like that, you deserve to get shellacked by the fans, because again, if you win that game, then the adulation is ungodly, crazy, awesome. So you can't have it both ways. So I'd rather have it, with the pendulum that swings real wide because our fans really care and our supporters really care. So I was fine with that. But, we got to pick the pieces up after, like Chernobyl basically, and figure out how to get this thing going and replace a Heisman Trophy winning quarterback who was Troy was an incredibly, I mean, he's probably if there was an all-time Ohio State team, he's probably the captain because he's that good of a leader, really passionate, really, really good. A guy that just fiery, kind of knew what to say, and then he'd back it up because he played like a monster. He was a beast on the field. So that's kind of what you need to be a great leader. But I learned that the best way to lead is to be the guy. Like, you have to be the guy that's grading out the highest every week. You got to be the guy that's winning all the sprints. You got to be the guy that's lifting the most weight. You got to be the guy that is basically at the top of the leaderboards for everything. You know, highest. You got to be getting his grades. You got to make all Big Ten. Like my senior year, I was academic all Big Ten. I was first team all Big Ten. I was first team All American. I was captain. Beat Michigan again. I checked a lot of boxes. The only one I didn't get is I didn't get the big ranks. We lost to LSU. But when you look at where we started in January, like we had to figure out an identity, and our identity is like, look, we're gonna be like a chain gang. Like we're gonna be a tough, hard nosed outfit. We're not gonna be as flashy as the 06 team because we're not gonna have Troy and Gonzo and Teddy. You know, we had Brian Hartline was a tough kid, Robo. So we had two good receivers, but we knew we had to not protect Todd, but it was Todd's first year starting. You know, and he's a guy not super mobile. He's a great athlete, but he's just not a super mobile guy, so you can't really run him the way we could run Troy. So we knew that we had to be tough. And again, I was like the poltergeist as a senior because I was like, we are not gonna go and get embarrassed. Yeah, I mean, because people were picking us to be third in the Big Ten, and I had to go to the stupid Big Ten media day and deal with all these morons in media that were picking, oh, are you guys going to be able to survive? Pick the pieces up. And I'm like, we'll be fine. We got Beanie now. Beanie's going to be our horse. And on the defensive side, we had James, who was a monster. Malcolm was a monster. Vernon Golson had really emerged in 06, and he became All-American, 6th pick in the draft in 07. Cam Hayward was a freshman that became the other starting defensive end. Obviously, Cam's going to be probably in the Pro Football Hall of Fame when he's done being a Steeler. But we had a lot of really tough guys. It was a really tough crew. Like I said, we weren't as flashy. We weren't as sexy. Obviously, you guys remember our old offense, the old Jim Tressel offense. But, we were really physical. Like, that was kind of our calling card. Like, you go look up our rush defense. It's like 60 yards a game or something like that is what we gave up, which is, like, insanely good. And again, I always think that a big part of it was because they went against our offense in practice. So we were a really physical offense. We ran the ball a lot. So they went against us. So, the fits that you develop and the toughness you develop going against our double teams and running our stuff, magically, it shows up when you play Michigan and you play Wisconsin and you play the teams that we beat in the regular season. We had to go like 7 hours to fly to go play the Washington Huskies, which was like an eternity. But I just learned that, the best way to be a captain is you got to be the guy. You can't be, because again, I've been critical of the captain process the last few years when there's been guys that don't play that get named captain, and guys that I played with some bad captains that didn't have good years and they got benched. And it's real hard to go up there, because every Thursday you usually get up and speak in front of the team. They shut the doors and you got to say a few words, something, some of it gets a little crazy, but you don't want to be that guy. You don't want to be the guy that doesn't hold the rope and he isn't accountable and he isn't balling. Like I tell this, I'm like, you got to go out there and ball. I mean, you got to be the guy, and you got to be the guy that's the tone setter, and you got to be, and honestly, sometimes you got to say stuff that's not going to make you popular. I mean, you're not going to be popular when you call guys out that aren't they're not being accountable. They're not holding the rope. They're not selling out for the good of the unit, and again, and that made me unpopular with some guys, but look, I told some of these guys are captains, look, when it's your last go round, screw it. Who cares? I don't care. I was like, I don't care if all you guys can all hate me, but we're not gonna play at that trash level that we played at. There were some games where we were terrible on offense my senior year, and I said it. I was like, this is unacceptable. Like we gotta go grind. We gotta get better. We're not gonna get to where we want to go. We're playing Akron. It was 3-2 at halftime, and again, I melted the walls at halftime because I was so angry because our defense is out there playing playing as hard as possible, and we can only put up 3 points versus Akron. Really, we gave up a safety. We got tackled. Our back got tackled in the end zone versus Akron. Like what are we doing? So again, people can say, he's a big meanie, he's an a-hole. I've been called everything under the sun. I don't really care. But that's part of it. It's not always comfortable to be a captain. You have to say stuff. And again, that doesn't mean you have to be some, there's a line, and I probably went over the line a bunch because, again, I was not trying to feel like that 41-14 Florida game. Now I know that we lost again to LSU and people say whatever, but like that was a totally different ball of wax than just rolling over and dying like we did versus the Gators. At least we fought. I know that we played LSU. They were way better than we were, but we just killed ourselves. We had 5 personal fouls. We roughed the punter on 4th and 22. Like you dropped a touchdown. I mean, I'm not blaming Austin Spittler or Robo or any of those guys, but that's just what happened in that game. Like you can't make mistakes like that when you're playing a team the caliber of LSU. We can do that against Akron. We can do that against Illinois and whoever. But like I said, the most important thing to leadership is you have to be at the top of the charts. You have to be the guy who everybody points to, and he's like, yeah, he's getting it in. He's working out twice a day. I used to drive the freshmen home that didn't have cars in my little Honda Accord that I had, just because that's what we had. I had a Honda Accord, and if Cam Hayward, who didn't have a car, needed to ride home, I'd give him a ride home, even though it was completely out of my way. It was always a good opportunity to get kind of a temperature check on a lot of these kids that maybe were homesick, maybe they weren't doing good, maybe they were upset they were redshirting, whatever. Like Boom Heron was a kid that we played Brandon Sane, we redshirted Boom Heron. Boom ended up being better than Brandon Sane. He ended up being having a nice little NFL career. Boom's a great kid, but he was upset and he thought he was better than Brandon, should have been playing. And I was like, dude, just go down to scout team, go grind. Like I did it, Santonio Holmes did it, Troy Smith did it. Like you're not some bum because you got to go play scout team, but go down there and ball. Like go down there and punish those guys and prove. Because the thing I know about like Luke Fickell and Jim Haycock and those guys is they'll tell Jim Tressel if you're that dude or if you're a turd. And again, like I went down there my freshman year, man, and I was like off the chain. I was killing guys on scout team because that's what made me better. And Jim Haycock said that to me, and Fickell and those guys all had my back when they said, hey, this is a guy you're gonna have to watch out for next year, because those guys that are on scout team, that's kind of what helps build the spring depth chart for the next year. It's like, hey, this guy you might want to put him with the 2s and see how he does, and then maybe move him up to the 1s. So, but yeah, that was in terms of leadership and being a captain, because in 06, I didn't say 2 words the entire season because I didn't have to, because I had Troy. The year before in 05, we had Rob Sims and Nick Mangold that were fantastic captains. But then in 07, when I looked around, I think I had more career returning starts than the rest of the offense combined. I'm not even kidding. So we were as young and as green as like you could ever dream. But we had to figure out how to get it rolling. And we did. I mean, and I had Booney was back, Steve Raring was back. So those guys had, 12 starts, whatever, the year before, 10, 11 starts, whatever. But I had like 30-ish coming back that last year. And, so we had to figure out a way to manufacture. It was like Moneyball. We had to figure out a way to manufacture points and make sure that our defense was put in good spots so that we could grind out some wins. All right. That was long. Nevada, do you have anything for that?
No, just this is my obligatory time when I drop the Jim Tressel line that people need love the most when they deserve it the least. One of my all-time favorite Tresselisms. Use it in life all the time, and he's a very, very wise man.
He is. I mean, honestly, like, and I'm not kidding. Like, Jim Tressel is the greatest human being I've ever met in my life. I mean, he is the most kind, wise. Like, I mean, he's that guy. So again, I learned a lot from him. Like, I mean, I had so much passion to play at Ohio State and for Ohio State when he was the coach, because I did not want to let that guy down. I didn't want to miss a game. Now, I'd miss practice if I was beat to crap and my knee was dragging along, my shoulder was torn out of the socket, which, I mean, I had a really bad shoulder injury, really bad knee injury, but I would still gas it up and shoot up for the game. Broken foot, played on it, shot it up every game, because I did not want to leave. I didn't want to let Jim Tressel down. I couldn't do it. I mean, he was that kind of a guy to a lot of us. I mean, you ask Troy Smith and Terrell and Reese and a lot of these guys, like, he's kind of like the guy. He's the guy that he's the guy that's been he saved a lot of lives. I'll just leave it at that. All right, Nevada, good show. I think we've got our super chats done. Double check. I think we're good. All right, Nevada, we can wrap this thing up. Any final thoughts?
No, just the Michigan scandal just gets deeper and deeper and better every day. And there's more coming, guys. There's guys and gals. There's more coming. We've been telling you this stuff. We try to whenever we tell you stuff, we always back it up with sources and citations and exactly what's going on. And you guys can see that there. I'm telling you right now, there's more coming on this. The story's going to get even better, and the hammer is coming for Michigan. And I don't want to say when because I don't know. If I knew exactly when, I'd be like, it's coming tomorrow at 4:00. But I have a feeling it's coming sooner than later, and it's going to be bad.
Are we gonna put a bet on if it's coming before my kid comes? Because my kid might just hang out for. I mean, he's not paying that anymore.
I'm not even sure you guys are having that. It's like
Panda Watch.
It's like this is the Panda Watch Day 57 or something like that. We're all waiting for Kim to deliver this little panda, little Toradol. You're gonna bring little Toradol Barton, bring it into the life.
My gosh. I cannot.
We'll
wait.
We'll call him Tor, little Tor.
Oh, Tor. I love it. All right, let's wrap this thing up. I appreciate you guys. Thank you guys for being a part of the Scoop family. Thank you for another great show. Great time. Thank you for the super chats. Going to Pay It Forward. We've got a ton of new Pay It Forward members signing up day over day for BuckeyeScoop.com. Again, you're eligible if you former military, police officers. Again, support the boys in blue. We appreciate you guys so much for what you guys do. Paramedics, firefighters, first responders. BuckeyeScoop@gmail.com. We ask for a military ID. We've gotten a bunch of those in the last few days, so we appreciate you guys. Again, you get a membership to BuckeyeScoop.com that is paid for by our Pay It Forward program. Again, it's been awesome, and again, we appreciate all that you guys do. So it's just something that we can do to kind of give back, and in our community can help give back to. So again, if you guys enjoy this content, please leave us a like. Click subscribe. Also, click that little alert bell. Again, I appreciate all that you guys do for this show, the chat. The Scoop family is incredible. Larry, again, happy birthday. Thank you for being on here each and every night. But this thing's a phenomenon, guys. And this is what it is. And it's fun to be a part of. And we're growing it at just an insane rate at this point. So we're just very thankful for you guys. Keep spreading the good word. Tell your friends. Post it on your Facebook. Post it on your Twitter. And again, if you guys want to do something fantastic, it really helps us if you subscribe to our stuff on Apple Music, Spotify. Leave us a 5-star review. Again, those are just so helpful. It takes literally 30 seconds, even if you like to mostly watch the show on YouTube, which I know is most of you. So, but I just appreciate you guys so very much. With that being said, thank you so much, Buckeye Nation, and thank you, Scoop family. You guys have a great rest of your night, and I will talk to you guys tomorrow. Go Bucks.